Hello Tacticians, it's Nox here, and today we're going to be talking about the new character event to get Arjac Rockfist, the latest of the Space Wolves in the Saga of the Wolfkin. Now, if you haven't already bookmarked the Tacticus fandom website, I would suggest you do so, because it has a great listing of all the quests that you will get when you're unlocking this character, and it will help you prepare for what's coming ahead. Myself, because I knew that Quest 4 was going to be 20 arena battles, I made sure that I had 15 already stored up before I went into this quest line. And that is why, if you look at where I am, I'm currently on the 7th mission, and I'm now waiting to play my 3rd salvage run, which I'll be able to do later today. Missions 10 and 15 also have the same 20 arena battles for them, so I will certainly be making sure to save up my battles when I know I'm getting close to those quests too. So, as I said before, if you haven't already looked at this website, please have a look, and it will help with these events. So, in my last video, we saw how resilient this character is going to be, and I imagine he will be used by a number of people in the live PvP tournament when it's actually here. But even if you're not going to unlock the character, I thought I'd look at least how we can counter him. So let's have a quick look. First of all, let's look at a character that everyone has, which is Varro. Now, he will do 363 damage normally, and if he uses his active, this can go between 305 and 367. So if Arjac is on his own, it's best to use the normal attack. Of course, if he is surrounded by other enemies, use his active. So here we're just going to move across and out the way and hit Arjac with our normal attack. 430 damage, because there is a variance in there, and as you can see, it took off maybe, I don't know, a quarter of his health. Sybil's attack stat is the same as Varro's at 363, however, her active will do between 414 to 440 psychic damage to a target within 2 hexes, and then there's a 75% chance to score another hit. So, if you're in this situation, I would highly advise you use Sybil's active against a character such as Arjac here, because of his high armour and because the large amount of damage Sybil will do. And in fact, that damage on its own vaporised Arjac. So I'm going to do it again, but this time just using Sybil to see how much damage she actually does, and I'm not going to get higher ground. Wow! So from that last one, we can see that Sybil is definitely a character we could definitely consider to bring into live PvP to counter the Arjac if he does indeed become meta in the PvP tournaments. Now, I have already suggested using Sybil in the PvP tournaments if you don't have infiltrate characters, because of her Night Shroud ability, which will not only reduce the amount of damage your characters take in the opponent's turn, but it means when they're moving in your turn, if they started next to her, they will not trigger Overwatch. So the 3rd time we did it, we didn't quite kill him, and we only put him down to maybe a quarter of his health. So a very good candidate to take into live PvP, because she is now going to be good against Arjac as well as that Night Shroud ability. But who else could we use? So the next two we will look at are Archimatos and Volk. Now, the reason for Volk is he has a high volume of attacks at a fairly decent piercing rate of 55% for his piercing ammo. Archimatos is more simple. He has his direct damage as a Psycho, which will obviously pierce 100%, and he can summon in the bloodletters around Arjac. But first of all, let's see what Volk does with his damage. So Volk's damage wasn't too bad, I'm guessing mainly due to the weight of attacks, but even so, with those 6 attacks, 55% piercing, he still doesn't really get through even half of Arjac's health. So let's try the same now, but with Archimatos. So he'll move Archimatos up, and we can either use his psychic attack, which is a bit weaker than Sybil's and Varro's, or we can summon in the demons. Now the demons do piercing damage, so the best option here would be summoning the demons. And the reason why this would be even good in PvP is we probably won't kill Arjac, so we will always summon the maximum number of demons around him, assuming he is on full health. So 5 demons summoned and just over half his health has been depleted. Now the opponent is going to have to deal with those demons, assuming of course you do get 5 around him, because there's going to be issues where you don't. You might get 4 or 3 depending on terrain. And obviously Arjac is now surrounded, and his one attack will only just about kill a demon beneath him. The demons are clever enough by the looks of things to move around so they're not on ice, or at least not at a lower level. But not quite enough to take out Arjac on his own. But if it's a one-on-one situation, this is a good matchup. And again, Archimatos is already used. So let's have a look at the latest addition, the Thousand Suns Abraxas. His active ability will summon a pink horror. And when it does psychic damage, it will summon a Screamer of Tzeentch on a free hex adjacent to Abraxas, preferring the hexes adjacent to enemy units. And those newly summoned units can also attack. And because it's going to do psychic damage on top, it will then summon another Screamer of Tzeentch. Assuming you have got Abraxas, and if you ever get into this sort of situation, make sure you summon your pink horror 2 away from Arjac, so the 2 Screamers will be summoned next to him. So here's the pink horror, not too much, Screamer, quite a bit more, which then summons another Screamer, and a few blocks there, and which will summon the final Screamer. Now obviously the final one will not attack, but you can see with that one attack it's nearly chipped off 75% of his health. Certainly up there with Archimatos. So we've seen that the Psychers can do absolutely fantastically against this unit. But what about good old-fashioned armour-piercing attacks with people like Janezar, one of my favourites, and the Autarch Aethana? This didn't go as well, mainly because he'll have that 75% reduction on the first attack, and those subsequent attacks are still going to have to go through his very high armour. Now, if we get Aethana into the mix and get her to attack, a bit more, but I was very lucky on the crits there. However, it still is an option. If you have a character with high piercing and multiple attacks, such as these two, then it may be something worthwhile. The last Eldari, of course, to think about here is going to be Eldryon, and he again is going to be fantastic because the more turns that go by will power up his active ability, and he will, without a shadow of doubt, be able to nuke Arjac in the same way that Sybil did. So as we just saw, what you're going to need to counter this guy is basically a Psyker or a character which has a high number of attacks combined with a high pierce rate. Bear in mind, if you are in combat with this guy and he puts you on ice, his block will increase and there's an increased chance to stun you as well, which will reduce the amount of damage you do in your next turn. How are you doing after this first day of the unlock for Arjac Rockfist? Are you near the top of the leaderboard, such as Bad Dog, Baraduck and Cage Slinky, fellow content creator there? Go and have a look at his videos. Or are you closer to me, where I'm down in the 1000s? Either way, what are your plans for this character? What are you going to do with him? Where are you most excited to use him? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll be seeing you on the battlefield.